Hi, everybody. Welcome back for day 4 of the 7 Pieces of True Healing series. So we have had a blast so far. I've had a blast so far, and judging by the private messages I've been receiving and the comments and people watching the replays, I think that it's safe to say we're all having a blast. So we have covered the first 3 pieces so far. And if you haven't seen those sessions, I highly recommend it. There is some mega juicy content in there, and I do not say that lightly. Like, your time is valuable, and I think it would be a smart use of your time to catch those replays if you missed them. Hey, Roberta, thank you for being here. So, in the first session, just to recap real quick, we went over deep and whole embodiment. That was the first piece. And it is always the foundational point for this journey, this process. And that filter makes me look like I'm having a fit. I love this filter. I just feel super sparkly. I'm in a sparkly mood today. We're having some cloudy, rainy weather here, so the sparkles are making me feel happier. So the deep and whole embodiment was the first piece of true healing, and the rest of them are really in no particular order. However, they are all completely 100,000% necessary on this process, on this journey. And embodiment will always be that first piece that is absolutely like where you must start from. So we discussed what it means to truly be embodied, what causes disconnection from our bodies, and I shared a lovely guided exercise, guided meditation, to communicate with your body and to learn more from him or her and what he or she needs. In the second piece of True Healing, session 2, I talked about creativity and sacred sexuality and how these two are linked. The number one biggest killer of creativity and sexuality and your vital primal life force, it's all connected. So we talked about the number one biggest killer of that, how to allow yourself to receive pleasure and like what that even means. We tend to have a very narrow focus on what sexuality and pleasure is, and it's kind of skewed. And so we talked about new ways of thinking about this. And I shared an ancient mudra, a hand gesture. It's like yoga for the hands, to support receptivity and to drop into your lunar energy. The third piece of healing was exercising personal power, and that was yesterday's session. That was super fun. We explored what true power really is and how it relates to true healing and how we can step into radical self-responsibility and recognize ourselves as the creator of our experience and of our physical lives. And then from there, how we can step into our power to recreate in the manner that we really intend and that we most desire for ourselves and for our lives. And I shared a breath exercise for stepping into personal power and for harnessing that. Hey Claire, thank you for being here. So, what is true healing? It is working with our challenges and our symptoms, our trauma, our grief, our pain points. It's not about pacifying those things. It's not about pacifying symptoms. It's not about band-aids. It is about being with the challenges and being with the pain and allowing ourselves to extract the wisdom and the gifts from there. Because your purpose, right? This like buzzy thing, we're all looking for our purpose. The magic that you're seeking is in those things. It is in the challenge. It's in the trauma. It's in the pain. So bypassing it is not going to yield the true healing and holding experience that you're looking for. It's actually going to cause you more grief and more dis-ease, more disconnection, and have you be further away from where you're trying to be in your life. So there, very passionate about this stuff. And you take a deep breath, and I love today's topic especially. So I think as I was putting my notes together, I was getting super fired up. So I need to like come back with my sparkly self. True healing is about understanding that the subtle creates the gross. So if you get nothing else from me ever, like ever again, or if you've taken nothing, I really hope that you remember and carry with you always that the subtle creates the gross. That is applicable to literally anything in your life. And it's the premise of authentic, true holing and healing. What does it mean? Aside from just sounding sexy and like a fun little mantra to carry with you, the subtle creates the gross. It means that everything experienced on your gross, physical, tangible experience of life, so the dense, gross, firm, physical things in your life, is created by your subtle realms. Okay? So just sit with that for a second. Everything is created by your subtle realms. They are all, the subtle realms are your building blocks for your physical experience. And those subtle aspects of you are the unseen. So your emotional body, your mental body, and your spiritual or energetic body, depending on what you like to call it. I know spiritual can be loaded for some people, so you can think of it as your more just energetic, nuanced body, and you have your emotional and your mental. So these 4 pieces of yourself, think of yourself as having these 4 bodies. So the physical body as well as your physical life and all that it encompasses. So your relationships, your work, all of these things is created by your emotional, mental, and spiritual levels. Your old beliefs, your mindsets, your habits, your patterns, your trauma, your grief, your ancestral wounds, every single choice that you make or don't make. All of these unseen realms drive everything and create your tangible experience on earth. So we can see how fixating on the surface challenge gets us nowhere, right? And that's why so many of us can find ourselves stuck and overwhelmed, because we're staying at the surface. We're fixating on that surface level challenge. And I like to say, I use the metaphor of a leaky boat. So by being fixated on that surface challenge, it's like you're literally scooping water out of a leaky boat instead of identifying the source of the leak and like just patching the hole. True healing lets us be boat repair people of our own boat, okay? You get to stop being this perpetual scooper and you get to patch the freaking hole, which is so beautiful and so empowering and is kind of a big, to the current paradigm, which kind of tells us to just, shut up and the symptom is the dis-ease or the disease, and then that's all we're going to look at, and that's that. So not only is being a perpetual scooper exhausting, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It's enough to drive people literally crazy. It is something that requires so much energy. I mean, think about it. You're just kind of ramming your head up against the same old crap all the time. It requires so much energy, and that energy is required by your physical body to just maintain itself and to stay vital. So no wonder dis-ease manifests, right? No wonder we're too clouded to see clearly and to get embodied and have the energy to create the change that we seek, because we're just scooping water out of our damn boat. So that is my intention in this whole series, is to present what true healing actually is, how it is a multi-level endeavor that requires us to love and be with and integrate all pieces of ourselves, all levels of us, all... Holy shit, I'm a scooper. Sweetheart, we're all scoopers. That's what we were taught. We weren't shown how to just identify the leak and patch the hole. We were just taught to scoop. So my intention is for us to stop scooping, get down in there, and be with the hurt. A lot of us, it's scary and it's painful. We don't want to go find where the water's coming in. It's easier to scoop, but it's really not. The perpetual scooping is draining you and robbing you of your clarity, your energy, meaningful relationships, meaningful work, health, and feeling alive and vibrant in your body and in your life. It's just, and then it passes on. It's through the generations, and we succumb to other ways of bypassing the traumas and the hurts In my family, I know I've talked about this, there is, like, if you don't have a drinking problem, you are weird. Like, you're the oddball. So we've gotten very good at scooping. And my intention, my purpose and mission is to, no more scoopers. Okay? So I have created and distilled these, yes, thank you. I have created and kind of distilled these 7 pieces of true healing from my own experiences, my own challenges, which are many over the years of my life to get to where I am today, and also from my work with clients. So without further ado, let's get into the 4th piece of true healing, which is unconditional self-love and acceptance. Oh yes, we're going there. So self-love, self-care, self-acceptance, these are concepts that are talked about a lot, and that's great. And they're kind of, in my experience, like becoming buzzy and trendy, and I've got a problem with how much of what I see is being presented, to be honest. There's a lot of like, do this, do that, you should do this, this is what body love looks like, this is what self-love looks like, and it turns into this like comparing, you know, ooh, look at her self-care, self-love regimen, it doesn't look like my regimen. And you know, the problem with that is it stems from fear. So it's like fear-driven, fear-based behaviors that are disguised as like, or I'm sorry, how do I say that? It's under the guise of self-love, but it's fear-driven. And it's rooted out of this, am I doing it right enough mentality? Am I doing enough? Am I enough? Am I expressing this enough? And women especially, we already carry that around. We're so good at beating ourselves up and so good at not feeling enough and having this old story of like just not being enough. And so this whole self-love culture, I think, had good intentions, and it's kind of started to go in this kind of just wonky direction in a lot of cases. And many clients, for example, they say that they don't understand what true self-care is, and they don't have a self-care practice. And I think that it comes from this comparison, where it's this culture that's been created around what self-love is. And while it's vital that we all include self-care in our daily routine, it's not something that needs to be a production or an energy drainer or something for us to compare to what someone else is doing, or something that we get to cross off of our list and feel accomplished. That's not the point. True self-care and self-love, they're synonymous to me. And they are a way of carrying yourself through life. I don't want to use the should word. I almost said it should be this. Bad Devon. It ought to be in everything that we do. So in everything that we do, in the way that we walk, in the way that we sit, in the way that we eat our food or brush our teeth, should be from a place of self-love and self-care. How many times have we gone through our days and all of the things that we have to do and not noticed, like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable in my seat. I'm not holding myself in a manner that feels good on my body. And so a simple act of self-love and self-care would be like, all right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to adjust, and maybe I need to take a little stretch break. You know? That's self-love. That's unconditional self-love. Not the other fancy schmancy stuff, which is great too. Like, you know, a spa day is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So it's married with the should. It's in everything that we do. It can be in everything that we do. There's an opportunity in each and every moment to step into further self-love and self-care. Do you love yourself unconditionally or only when you're good? Right? And that is something, oh my gosh, I have like pulled on the Mama Wolf lecture hat when I've been out and listened to, again, it's women, you never hear men like, oh, I've been so good today, I've eaten this. Like, I've never, it's typically the women, and it's rooted in that, that not enough, am I being good thing. So do you love yourself unconditionally? Or, hey, Alba, so glad you're here. Yes, you made it. You made it live. Awesome. So do you love yourself unconditionally or only when you're good? Do you accept yourself and your current place on your journey completely? And so looking at where we are currently on our journey, and if there's some resistance or resentment, that is a big barrier to this unconditional self-love and acceptance, and it's going to be very difficult to see the invitation and the opportunity in every single moment to deepen into that self-love and that self-care. Because there are those subtle realms, that inner critic and that emotional body just chatting away, this like chronic low level, whatever is boiling up under the surface, if it's resentment or if it's just a lack of forgiveness or whatever it is for where you currently are on your journey. And I see this a lot in people who, life happened, something happened and they've gained weight, or they chose path A and in hindsight they wish they would have chosen path B. And those tapes are playing on the subtle, which is driving everything and creating the current gross experience. And there's not a lot of actions or activities or the way that they're treating themselves that suggests that there's a high level of self-care and self-love. So getting very crystal clear on, do I love myself unconditionally, or do I have this like weird morality thing where I'm good and bad labels for different behaviors and different actions? And do I accept myself and my current place on my journey completely? And if there's some, and this is where, see, I love this, that now we're getting into these pieces, so we've got examples to draw from. This is where that embodiment piece, that first piece, is absolutely essential. Because your body will speak truth to you. You ask yourself a question, and you will feel there's a visceral response. And this isn't just for, I used to think like, oh, that's just for those really special, cool, intuitive types who are like really connected to their bodies. That's not me. I'm whatever story I'm telling about myself years ago. It's all of us. And when we're disconnected, it can be a little difficult to reconnect, but it's not impossible. Your true nature is one of connection to yourself, connection to your physical vessel for all the answers and all the direction, all the guidance that you seek. So getting very clear and very embodied and asking yourself these questions. And that's where we can start to step into, how do I heal? What's my relationship like with my creativity and my sacred sexuality? Because through that, you are very clear on what brings you pleasure. And when you're very clear on what brings you pleasure, you know what your needs are. Then you can step into exercising your personal power and meeting those needs, being clear on what's working and what's not working, and breaking that bitch down and creating a new. And unconditionally loving and accepting yourself along the way. Because if it's not happening right now, you can't fear your way into your next evolution or into what you're going for. You can't run from the past into what you really want. Those things aren't sustainable, and that's still coming from these imbalanced subtle layers that are going to continue to create a dysfunctional, imbalanced, gross experience. So the subtle has to be shifted. There has to be this unconditional self-love and acceptance for everything before you can move forward. I mean, I understand it's challenging. It is challenging. And I meant what I just said. It has to be there before you can move forward. I mean, I'm just thinking about experiences in my life. I've lost 75 pounds twice in my life. You think the first time was rooted in self-love and self-acceptance? Hell no. Because if it was, there wouldn't have been a second time to have to do it all over again, right? Back in the day, I quit smoking like, oh, Jesus, I don't know, 10, 20 times before I finally quit. Same thing with drinking and episodes of emotional eating and and binge eating and all of these things, and it can't happen if it's not rooted in unconditional self-love and acceptance. So, all right, we have comments. Time is moving so fast that last year's gold is this year's fool's gold. Is that a song? That sounds familiar. And Claire, I have so many walls, I'm finding it hard to truly see me. Yep. I hear you, sister. And that's where that embodiment piece is really, really helpful. Because the way to see you and to get past the clouded perceptions of our undigested crap, our old mindsets, beliefs, habits, patterns, whatever, the way to get past that, because those things aren't us. Those aren't us. Those are handed down to us from society, from the people that raised us. They are mechanisms that we developed when we were young in response to traumatic situations that we weren't equipped to deal with, or even not young. I mean, a traumatic situation that happened yesterday that we didn't feel equipped to deal with. We developed, armors and different compensatory mechanisms to handle these things. And those walls aren't us. So the way to get back to seeing you and clearing the fog is through the body, so through embodiment. And if you haven't checked out the first piece, the first session, I think that might be very, very helpful for you. Knocked down a few walls too, by the way, but I've been so many still wrapped around me, I just know it. Oh yeah. And we're never done. Like, I don't think we're never done. There's always something deeper to dive into, even if it's the same theme. You know what I'm saying? There's always, like, it's a spiral. We just keep going, keep diving deeper and deeper and deeper, and we get so much clearer along the way, so that when it comes up, it's not so like, holy shit, and we're deer in headlights, like, what do? I don't like this. No, it's kind of, we're more stable. We're like, oh, I know you, old fear, belief, whatever you are, old inner critic, old story I tell myself about myself. I know you. And we're more stable, and we're able to be the observer and to continue to extract wisdom from it. Those things, those challenges, those shadows are our teachers. Our true gurus are within, and they are those pain points. And they're always going to be there to teach us new things. Always. Because we're not done. If we're done, then, like, why the hell are we still here? Like, I don't want to be done. I live in fascination of the shit that goes on between these ears, and just, she's a fascinating creature. Yes, I love it. So true self-love and self-acceptance is a bit radical. Yeah. And it's still so kind of like taboo, because it's like more acceptable, which is so dumb. It is more acceptable to like be miserable and to not like yourself, which makes no sense. So it appeals to the maverick inside of us when we just get to be like, nah, I am ending this whole lineage behind me of people of unprocessed trauma and elephants in the room that nobody wanted to address and self-loathing and all of this crap, and I'm healing who's coming before me. I'm going to be a lighthouse and an example for everyone else around me, and I'm choosing to look at my shit, heal my leaky boat once and for all, so I'm not being the water scooper that I talked about earlier, and I'm going to, like, love and accept me, all of me. So it's a bit radical. And as much as I dislike all or nothing thinking, because it can be dangerous, right? Like all or nothing, black or white thinking, I think that this is one of those rare instances where you've got to be all in at all times. Like you gotta love it all at all times, all or nothing, be all in. I think it's just, this might be like that one example where all or nothing fits. Even when you do that one thing that you said you wouldn't do anymore, right? And in my example I gave with like the quitting smoking, you have to, I think, kind of screw up whatever the new behavior is a couple of times to keep learning until you can get to that point where there is true love and acceptance. Because when that's there, it's almost like these pesky habits and patterns that we have that we are wanting to transmute. It's like, oh, you're no fun anymore because now you love me and you accept me. So you're just no fun. I don't want to keep nagging at you and yield you into temptation. Like, you're just no fun because now you love me. It's like a little kid that really wants attention, and then you give them attention and they're like, oh, okay, I'll stop poking you or pulling your hair. So another way to think about it too is with this piece of true healing, this ultimate rebellious self-love and self-acceptance. It's kind of like we're reparenting ourselves. And we get to show up for ourselves always in the manner that we truly need, and maybe that we truly needed years, decades ago. So it helps us to step into radical self-love and acceptance of self, and then radical love and forgiveness for other as well. Because when we can truly see ourselves for what we are and love it and drop the labels and drop all the bullshit and understand we were acting from a place of fear, from pain, from trauma, we can see that in others as well. So it is incredibly freeing and incredibly healing, and it has to start from within. That was something else I resisted so much, was like, I can totally love others and have meaningful relationships even if I don't fully love myself. Like, no. It doesn't work. So we become clearer on our needs and our boundaries, and we experience better relationships with others, like I said, because we become more graceful and more loving and more compassionate. So it's it's healing for the collective is truly what it is. Like, when you step into being fully embodied, you step into owning your creativity and your sexuality, your sacred sexuality, your pleasure. You step into radical self-responsibility and personal power, and then bring this self-love piece into it, this self-acceptance. It is profound, and it is truly about everyone else around you, because what's best for you when you're whole and healthy is best for everybody. So it becomes this like ancestral thing, like the people behind you who you're made of, literally physically made of, and energetically and behaviorally made of. It makes all of their life completely worth it, and their journey, because it's like they kind of got maybe a little further but didn't have all the resources or the tools or the wherewithal to unravel all the way, but maybe the person after them did, and so it's like just been trickling down, and you get to kind of just be like, the buck stops here, like, done. Ain't gonna happen anymore. So self-acceptance, honoring, forgiving, and celebrating all of our pieces and all the steps that we've taken in our journey this far. And for me, that self-forgiveness piece has shown up many times, and I've grappled with it because there were just things about my past that I felt like, I can't forgive this. And it's amazing when you do, and you incorporate all of these things, how the physical manifestations of your life, your physical health, and those other physical realms we talked about. So everything in your 3D experience, your relationships, your work, your life, your body, how all of these things slowly they start to regenerate. It's that subtle recreating the gross as it changes and heals and shifts. Everything else begins to take place. A fantastic example of that, along with the line of this piece for today, this unconditional self-love and acceptance. I've shared all week from my personal journey, my personal example with my health is my hormones, my really wonky hormones, and I've struggled with that for a very long time, and as many women do, right? This hormonal dance we have is very delicate and easily influenced by everything and anything, especially unprocessed emotions and strong feelings of anger and resentment, and especially around our mother. There's a direct link. And I'll keep this as short as possible. I experienced a hugely traumatic event in April of 2012 and started drinking even more, which I didn't know was possible on top of what I was already doing, and I lived. Like, thank you, liver, thank you, body. Whew. So started drinking even more, taking even worse care of myself, and at the same time, my mother started doing, she had been a drug addict and an alcoholic my whole life, had been clean for a while, and then around the same time, for different reasons, started spiraling out of control. So our relationship got even worse at the time and continued that trajectory. And then around April 2014, my hormones completely plummeted, which made no sense because I had quit drinking and started to really step into my spiritual journey. I stopped getting my cycle. I was breaking out like never before. Adrenal insufficiency, all of these things. And I was so pissed off because I'm like, dude, this is me talking to my body. Like, you held it down. We've been through some shit. I have stuffed you full of all kinds of food that like should never be consumed by human beings ever. You have smoked for years and now you don't. You have drank like a fish for ever. And like, now you don't do any, we don't drink, we don't smoke, you're eating all these good foods, and like, now you wanna freak out? And it's like, of course, you're gonna have a little bit of something when you start to feel and look at the things that you've been bypassing forever. So it could start to feel a little worse before it gets better. However, the real kicker, my mother and I, for the first time in my life, had like parted. We had always kept a relationship. It was strained. We had never been the ones to be like, I'm not speaking to you and I'm creating boundaries and like, you can on yourself and I'll talk to you later. We'd never been like that, but at that point we did. And when my next period was due, it did not come back. And it didn't return. And my hormonal situation got worse. And I was so full of this anger and this resentment and all of these things that had always been there, but I had never fully felt because I had spent my life bypassing them and scooping water out of the boat, like I said, not looking at the leak, not being with the challenges, not being with the trauma, because I had also had no clue how the hell to do any of that, right? No one ever showed me that. This is what I've been shown. You handle pain, you want to take the edge off, this is what you do. So, where was I going with that? So I'm feeling all of these things so fully and so intensely for the first time ever. And my body responded in a big way. On top of the stress of the traumatic situation that I had experienced 2 years prior and was still dealing with. So all of these things are compounding. Stress and trauma build up on each other and continue to pull energy out of the system. And when we're not using resources that are helpful, when we don't have resources that are helpful, and we simply just don't know what to do, it definitely shows in the body. So fast forward, I had this amazing experience, this amazing continued spiritual evolution and awakening, and completely fell in love with all of me slowly and with some challenge. and was able to release my mother completely. And I ovulated. We had a healing conversation, and I ovulated for the first time in about a year and a half, less than a week after that phone call. So, I mean, that's a pretty fast physical change. And my whole point in telling this story, long story, I apologize. My whole point in telling this story is that the physical, dense existence needs a little bit of time to catch up. So I had been shifting the subtle. I had been recreating and regenerating and healing and dropping the bullshit and learning these pieces and embodying them and incorporating them and unbecoming and being with the trauma and all of these things. And so that was happening. Like your mind, you can have this awareness lightning quick. The dense is slow and needs time to catch up and to regenerate. So, and it's possible. And it is definitely within your scope of creativity as the creator of your experience and of your life. And it's a true testament to the power of our subtle realms and how this current paradigm of fixating on the surface and not going deeper and not changing the very foundational building blocks of our life is not serving anyone. It's just not. So, yes. Have you guys had any examples or experiences where you have had similar instances of, maybe it's not something that big, but it could be like being very angry at somebody and every time you think about them you get a headache? Or, babe, do you have any examples? Oh, you weren't listening to me? Is anyone listening to me? Anyway, if you have anything like that, I'd love to hear about it. So, self-acceptance, coming into this forgiveness of self, allows us to forgive others. And being able to fully accept and love where you are right now on your journey is imperative. All your choices, all the things that you have done and not done, can you love and accept it? What's getting in the way of loving and accepting it? And how would your life and body and health and relationships and work all be different if you stepped into deeper self-acceptance? So just things to think about. You know, I love asking you questions and getting you to think about these things. And the grudges that we hold against the self are the most dangerous and create the most dis-ease in our lives. And many of our challenges and symptoms and ill health are because of the grudge we hold against ourselves and our inability to forgive self. And it should be noted also that even when somebody else has done us wrong, we tend to, especially the more kind of empathic and highly sensitive that you are, you will internalize their wrongdoing and kind of create guilt and shame towards yourself for something that they did. And that's where we talked about, spoiler alert if you didn't watch session 2, which I highly recommend you do, the biggest killer to creativity and sacred sexuality is shame and guilt. So we see how this thread is insidious, and it is also preventing us from stepping into and exercising personal power, like we talked about, the third piece of true healing yesterday, and also preventing us from stepping into full self-love and self-acceptance. So that shame and that guilt piece, and those events that carry that frequency make it difficult for us to love and forgive ourselves, even if we're not necessarily the ones that need that self-love or that love and forgiveness, because it was the action of another. We're such fascinating creatures. I love it. And so lastly, I wanted to talk about emotional body intelligence and fluidity and honoring that very sensitive piece of us. self-love and self-acceptance can be haltered by us not being in right relationship with our emotional body. This is that place of feeling, of emotion. It's very subtle and ever-changing, very sensitive. It's kind of our lunar aspect, our lunar nature. And many of us weren't taught how to move our emotional energy, how to be with our emotional energy in healthy ways, how to not fear it, or how to respect it, and how to harness wisdom, harvest wisdom rather, and extract messages from it without getting completely involved and swept up in it. So we were never taught how to dance with it in this manner. We were shown bypassing and numbing, like I talked about, alcohol, food, sex, drugs, shopping, over-consuming media, all of these different ways. And learning how to be in right relationship with it and how to come into that dance with it is how to step into deeper love and self-acceptance. They're very closely related, very closely related. And when you create a more harmonious inner relationship with these subtle pieces, like I've been talking about, and especially the emotional body, that's how you're even closer to creating true healing for yourself and your life. And I had a thought, it just escaped me, about the emotional body. Also learning to see the interplay among the four bodies, among the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. When the mental body is having its tantrums and its, ego is having its armors and its compensatory mechanisms and the masks and those mindsets and those beliefs and those habits and those patterns, and is giving you the not enough stories and the whateverness, that triggers an emotional response, which changes your mood, changes your outlook, changes the decisions that you make, which is all creating your physical experience. And on a physical standpoint, it's creating a physiological response in the body. Emotions are energy. Each emotion carries a different frequency and elicits a different physiological response that can either improve and help health, or diminish health and wreak havoc and drain the system. So if you're walking around with a story of, truly, let's face it, the root of all of our challenges, all of our suffering, all of our story is the "there's something wrong with me" story. Every one of us, each one of our core wounds, if you want to use that expression, stems from a shade of the "there's something wrong with me" story. So when you're walking around with that, you're already viewing the world through that lens and creating the experience of that and receiving that kind of treatment. And you're also having an emotional response to that story and to each one of these things that you're manifesting. So it all just interweaves together in this fascinating thing that, again, like I talked about yesterday in exercising personal power, that piece of true healing can feel overwhelming, and it can feel like, at least for me, when I started to really step into this, it was I'm a victim, well, I didn't ask for any of this shit. What the heck? And it's really not intended to be that way. It's actually quite empowering. As I said yesterday, if you created everything, and everything so far has been created, and it's very real, and you're experiencing it, and it was created from something that you didn't intend to create, from a more subconscious place, hot damn, imagine what you could create from a very intentional, focused, conscious place. Right? Yes. So how can we better own and feel and step into our pain and our trauma and our grief and our challenges and all of the good stuff? Well, I don't even like good or bad, it's labels, all the other stuff. How can we better honor the collective and primal spiral energy, I love to call it. I don't like using so much feminine and masculine energy. I love lunar and solar, and another labels that I have coined are spiral and triangle energy. So this emotional body, this loving lunar side of us is very spirally. And kind of that whole rhythm and pulse of life is incredibly spirally. So coming into right relationship with that side of us, that spiral energy, and our sensitivity. How can we come into more relationship and right relationship with these aspects and these realms of us? And it truly comes from stripping away all that's in the way of authentic and embodied self-love and self-acceptance. Yeah. So I would love in closing to leave you, I've always ended these sessions with two things. One, a little set of questions for you to meditate with or journal with or answer in the group. Many of you guys have, or you've sent me private messages during this series, kind of sitting with these questions. And then I've always ended each one of these with a little exercise to deepen into this piece of healing. So, question. What is difficult for you to accept about your life and yourself? What is most difficult right now for you to accept about yourself and your life? What is difficult for you to fully love about yourself and your life? What do unconditional self-love and self-acceptance mean to you? What do they actually mean to you? Not to anyone else. Forget any of the crap I've said. What do they mean to you? And how would your life look differently if you were able to embrace and live these concepts? What would that mean for you? Like, how would things look differently? And you can get very, literal, Maybe my health would improve, my relationship with my partner would improve. You can also get kind of more esoteric with it. Like, because for me, this is a huge part of my why and my mission and my purpose and passion is healing, like, the feminine wounding and deep trauma that is in my lineage and that pain, and helping others to break free from that and to extract purpose and meaning and the gifts from their trauma and from their challenge, to truly transmute them. And I use that word very, very selectively and purposefully. I talked a lot about that in yesterday's video, actually. So yeah, what would that look like for you? How would your life be? And lastly, what is a loving action step you can take for yourself today that brings you closer to self-love and self-acceptance? And actually, I would love if you could share that if you're here. I see the little eyeball icon. There's some of you here. If you could share what a loving action step you can take for yourself today looks like. For me, I am accepting and loving and honoring that my physical body has been feeling a little bit depleted the last couple of days. I have been putting together some amazing things I'm really excited to talk about, and that has brought up a lot of my emotional and mental body stories, those old subtle pieces that tell me it's not enough, or damn you sensitive physical body, why do you need to rest? Like, that little old voice will rear its ugly head every once in a while when I'm deepening into a new evolution. And so I'm honoring today that my physical body would like to rest after this and enjoy the rainy weather that we're having. So that's an action step that I'm going to take today. All right, so this exercise, it's not something that we can do like the other ones that I've shared. I've loved all of them. And I've shared so many from my repertoire. My medicine bag is plentiful, bountiful. The embodiment video, I guided you through a meditation to deeply connect and commune with a body part. And in the creativity and sexuality piece, I shared a mudra to open up to more receptivity and lunar energy and pleasure and recognizing pleasure in your life. And yesterday's video session with personal power, I shared a breath exercise. And again, like I said in the beginning of this video, if you've missed any one of those, your time is valuable. And I don't say it lightly when I highly invite you to go check those out. So for today, for stepping into self-love and self-acceptance, like I said, it's not something we can necessarily do together right here. I will write it in the comments so that you have it. It's a mirror exercise. Okay. So I would invite you to go to a mirror, a full-length one, if possible, but any mirror in a serene, safe space that you can be alone in for a little while. And, you know, come into sacred ceremony, however that looks for you. Be still, be present, get, you know, grounded, arrive, light a candle, burn some sacred smoke, turn on some soft music, whatever that looks like for you. Set a little sacred space for yourself and ensure that you won't be disturbed for a little bit. And like I said, in a full-length mirror, whatever you have at your disposal that can also serve as this, you know, safe, quiet space for you, I would love for you to stand naked. Naked. Be with your beautiful body vessel, loving and accepting him or her exactly how they are right now. So naked in front of this mirror. And beginning at your feet, touch every single body part. So starting at your feet, and I mean, it's up to you how, if you want to, you know, do like every single toe or, you know, an ankle or whatever, but starting at feet and then calf, knee, thigh, looking at your body in the mirror, starting at your feet, touch every single body part and say out loud, thank you, body part. I love you because. So thank you, foot. I love you because you help me to walk through life. You help me to stand. You help me to balance and walk on my own. You know, whatever that is. Thank you, foot. I love you because you are cute. Whatever it is for you. So thank you, I love you because. And at the end, so you're going to work all your way up. So thank you, calf. I love you because you are sexy. Thank you, knee. I love you because you allow me to jump and run pain-free and you're very flexible. And thank you, thigh. I love you because you are voluptuous and sexy. Thank you, you know, keep going. And in the belly, if it's feeling right to you, I like to get really specific and like almost talk to my organs and my digestive system. Because if it weren't for the stuff that's right here, like we need these are vital organs for a reason. So you can get very specific and, you know, thank you, colon. I love you because you help me to excrete what I no longer physically need in this body. Thank you, small intestine, because you derive most of the nutrients from my foods. Some other nutrients, you know, come from other areas, but depending on your physiological understanding of the digestive system, not important. The importance is the intention and the recognition of each of these body parts. So naked in the mirror, loving each of these body parts. I love you, part, because blank. And at the very end, I'd love for you to end by looking at yourself deeply in the eyes in the mirror and saying, thank you, Devon, and whatever your name is. I love you because. And this is where I invite you to get very specific and very clear and name some of these things that might be feeling challenging to love and to accept and to forgive. So thank you, Devon. I love you because you are strong and you are brave and you are brilliant and you are fully stepping into your purpose more and more every day, and you are not afraid to speak truth, and you've seen some shit and been through some shit, and you are still here, and you strive every day for more authenticity and for more vulnerability and for more love and grace. And I love you because you continue to show up for me no matter what. You know, however that looks for you. That just came from my heart right then and there. So thank you for witnessing me in my little exercise. So yeah, any thoughts, any questions, any insights, anything? How's your day going? What did you have for breakfast? Anything at all before I close? And so today was session 4, the 4th piece of true healing. Can't believe it's already 4. And I will be back for 5, 6, and 7. We will close on Thursday on the solstice with the 7th piece of true healing. And the times are different every day. I purposefully staggered them so that anybody who wished to attend live could hopefully do so. There would be at least one that they could fit into. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Roberta. Okay, sweet. So like I've been saying, go check out the ones you've missed. And I am so here and open during this week of sharing this series. This is something that came through as an idea a few weeks ago. And so I'm doing it. This is just like a spirit-led thing. So I'm here. Like I said, any questions, you want to PM me, you want to ideally share in the comments or post in the group, because we all learn from each other and there's some power in sharing and kind of showing up and unmasking that little bit of vulnerability. So I'm here. Comment, watch, return. I love you. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.